Welcome to the Deconstructionist Deep Dive.
The podcast that doesn't just accept the story.
We break it
We examine the pieces.
and expose the machinery inside.
Let's dive in.
Okay, so today we are doing something a little different. We're performing a security audit,
Right.
but not on a piece of software, not on a corporation. We're auditing a system that's so pervasive, so deeply embedded in your own personal operating system, you probably don't even see it as code.
You just call it life.
You call it falling in love.
We're talking about the modern romantic relationship, but, and this is a really important but, we are not approaching this from the angle of, how to communicate better
No.
or 10 ways to spice up the bedroom. If you want that, just go buy a magazine at the airport. That's not what this is.
Absolutely not. We are looking at this through the lens of a document we have here labeled Analysis Guide and Deconstruction Notes. And it treats modern love not as a sanctuary,
Not at all.
but as a containment system.
Which is, that's a terrifying way to frame it, but the premise is so simple, and that's what makes it so chilling.
What if that dissatisfaction you feel, that low-level hum of anxiety that you're not doing enough or that your partner isn't enough, that something is just missing, what if that isn't a bug?
What if it's a feature?
Exactly. What if you're unhappy, not because you haven't done the work, but because the entire system is designed from the ground up to harvest your energy by making sure you never, ever actually reach the finish line?
It's the love trap, and that's what we're here to do today. We're going to take apart the machinery piece by piece.
We're going to look at the axioms. These are the impossible rules you're forced to play by from the start.
Then the emotional levers, all the guilt and shame and fear the system uses to keep you in line.
And finally, the reincarnation lures. These are the really clever tricks that keep you coming back for more cycle after cycle, even when you think you finally escaped.
So I guess our mission today is to figure out why, if the system is so fundamentally broken, we're all so desperate to stay inside of it.
So let's start at the foundation. The source material calls this first section the impossible math. And I love that framing.
Because the numbers just don't add up.
They can't. The first piece of machinery we absolutely have to dismantle is something the guide calls Note 9, partner as village.
Ah, yes. This is a big one. It's this idea that we've taken the entire social infrastructure of all of prior human history,
Right.
and we've just collapsed it onto the shoulders of a single human being.
Let's actually break down the math on this, because this is where the glitch, the fundamental error in the code really begins. Go back to, say, 1650, or hell, even 1850.
You live in a village, or a tight-knit community, a neighborhood.
And if you need financial help, you don't just turn to your spouse. You go to your family patriarch, or your guild, or your community leader. If you need spiritual guidance,
You go to the priest, the shaman, the elder.
if you need help with the kids, you have an army, you have aunts, older siblings, cousins, neighbors. If you just want to complain about your husband or wife,
You go to your best friends, your same-sex peer group, who get it. You have this whole diversified portfolio for your emotional life.
your emotional stock was spread across maybe, 50 people? You had a whole roster.
And now, fast forward to today. Post-industrial capitalism has, atomized us. It's scattered us.
We move for jobs.
Right.
We live in these little isolated boxes called apartments, miles and miles away from our kin network. The village is gone. It's a historical artifact.
But the human needs didn't go away. So the question becomes, who inherited the job description of an entire village?
The partner.
The partner, the one person sitting on the other end of the couch who's probably just as tired as you are.
Right. And you look at this one person who is just a flawed, tired mammal like you, and you, maybe without even realizing it, you hand them this impossible list. You say, okay, I need you to be my financial co-planner,
My co-parent, my intellectual equal, my emotional therapist.
my very best friend in the whole world, and this is the real kicker, my wild, mysterious, erotic adventurer.
And if they fail at any one of those 20 jobs,
Then the relationship is failing. It's on the rocks. We need to work on it.
it is so absurd when you actually say it out loud. It's like you're trying to run this massive enterprise-level operating system on a tiny pocket calculator from the 1980s.
The hardware just can't handle a load. It's not designed for it. The source has a specific term for this. It calls it demiurgic overload.
Okay, hold on. Demiurgic. That is a heavy word. We need to unpack that for a minute.
It's from Gnosticism. In Gnostic thought, the demiurge is this lesser, false god who creates a flawed, broken physical world, trapping spirits inside matter.
So it's not the real ultimate creator. It's a sort of cosmic imposter.
Exactly. So in this context, demiurgic overload means we are expecting our partner to be a god. But not just any god, a flawed, world-creating god. We're asking them to create our entire world for us.
We want them to provide the sense of belonging that a whole tribe used to provide.
And the sense of meaning and transcendence that religion used to provide.
Wow. That puts a tremendous amount of pressure on a Tuesday night dinner conversation about who's taking out the recycling.
It crushes it. It's an impossible axiom from the start. But here's where it gets even more insidious. It's not just that we want too much from one person.
It's that we want things that are fundamentally opposed to each other.
And that brings us right to Node 1, integrated security and mystery.
This is the core conflict that you see in a lot of relational therapy, like Esther Perel's work, but this guide frames it as a deliberate system glitch. It's designed to be unsolvable.
We demand two things. We want the anchor, and we want the wave.
Explain that.
On one hand, you want security. You want the anchor. The person who co-signs the mortgage, who knows exactly how you take your coffee, who is reliable and safe and predictable and familiar.
That's the village aspect we were just talking about, the stability.
Precisely. But on the other hand, we've been sold this grand, sweeping Hollywood story that true love must also be passionate. It has to be erotic. It has to have that spark. That's the wave, the unpredictable, powerful force.
And what does eroticism, what does that spark actually require?
Well, what does it not require? It doesn't require safety. It doesn't require predictability. It requires mystery. It requires distance. It requires the unknown, a little bit of danger even.
You can't truly lust after something you completely possess.
Exactly. You don't look at your favorite, most comfortable pair of old sweatpants with raw, erotic desire. You look at them with affection, with comfort. They're your anchor.
So the system, the matrix of modern love, demands that your partner be both the comfortable sweatpants and the mysterious stranger in a trench coat across a crowded room.
At the exact same time, the guide labels this deception strike #1, the impossible dyad.
Because it's a dyad. Two opposing forces.
The system tells you that if you truly loved each other, if you were really soulmates, you would be able to be best friends and wild lovers. But structurally, the very things you do to become a best friend, creating closeness, sharing everything, removing all mystery, are the very things that kill the wild lover, which requires distance and otherness.
It's a setup. It's designed for you to fail.
It is a logical contradiction built into the core programming.
Yeah.
And what does that inevitable failure produce in us?
Guilt. A feeling that we're doing it wrong.
And what does that guilt produce? What does it motivate?
It motivates work.
Bingo. Suddenly you're buying the books, you're going to the seminars, the weekend workshops, you're meticulously planning date nights to artificially manufacture mystery in a relationship that is fundamentally designed for total security.
You are literally running on a hamster wheel trying to reconcile two opposing magnetic poles. You're just generating heat and exhaustion.
Let me just play devil's advocate for a second here.
Please.
People do have long, seemingly happy marriages. I mean, my grandparents were married for 50-plus years. They seem perfectly content. Are we saying they were just delusional or trapped?
I think we're saying they were playing a completely different game.
How so?
This brings us to the next point, to Node 7, the happiness mandate. Your grandparents, most likely, did not view personal happiness as the primary metric or even a necessary metric of their union.
That's probably true.
Yeah.
They saw it as a partnership, a duty, a way to build a family, a legacy.
Exactly. The source material identifies this modern happiness prioritization as a critical vulnerability in our programming. We have been conditioned, especially in the last 50 or 60 years, to see ourselves as hedonic subjects.
Hedonic meaning purely pleasure-seeking.
Meaning that our primary purpose in life, our main goal, is to feel good, to be fulfilled, to be happy. We've started treating happiness not as a fleeting byproduct of a life well lived, but as a basic civil right.
And the relationship becomes the primary delivery mechanism for that right.
Which turns your partner into a service provider. Their job is to make you happy.
This creates what Source calls a liberal consumer subject trap. If you wake up one morning and you don't feel happy, and let's be honest, the human baseline is often neutral or anxious or just, blah, not ecstatic. What's your first assumption?
That the product is broken.
Right. My marriage isn't making me happy anymore, therefore I need to either fix it or replace it.
Whereas a stoic, or, someone from your grandparents' generation, might have said, who on earth told you were supposed to be happy all the time? You have a roof over your head and your children are fed. Get back to work.
Right. The happiness mandate is actually a lever for extraction. It's a
Yeah.
tool to harvest our energy. Because true, lasting happiness is a phantom. It's fleeting. The pursuit of it is endless.
If your goal is duty, you can achieve it. You can go to bed at night and say, I did my duty today. You can win that game.
But if the goal is happiness, you're always, always chasing the dragon. You are perpetually vulnerable to the suggestion that you could be happier somewhere else, with someone else.
It reminds me of that old saying, the secret to happiness is low expectations.
But modern love is built on the absolute highest expectations in all of human history,
Maximum expectation.
with zero structural support from a wider community.
That is the impossible math.
So, okay, the setup is complete. We're isolated, we're overloaded with impossible expectations, and we're chasing this phantom called happiness. Now, how does the system keep us locked in that state?
This is where the guide moves into section 2, the emotional levers, or as you so aptly called it, the labor camp.
This is where it starts to get really personal for a lot of people. We have to talk about node 2, desire dynamics.
Right. This is the part that I think really messes with people's heads because it feels so counterintuitive to the story we've been told. We touched on it with the whole security versus mystery thing, but this goes deeper.
The source puts it bluntly. Caretaking kills desire.
Let's break that down. Think about it not just emotionally, but almost physiologically. When you are caretaking, when you are nursing a sick partner, or reassuring their anxieties, or managing the complex logistics of a household, what mode are you in?
You're in a parental mode, a safe energy. Your goal is to close the gap, to soothe, to make things known and secure.
And desire. What does desire need?
It needs a gap. It needs a little bit of risk. Otherness.
You don't typically look at the person who is, wiping a baby's nose or meticulously sorting the recycling and think, I must ravage them this instant.
Well, maybe some do, but structurally you're right. Those are opposing energies. The domestic function tends to neutralize the erotic function.
But here's the trap. The modern story, the one in all the movies and magazines, tells us that true intimacy, deep emotional closeness, leads to better sex.
That is the great lie. That is what the source calls deception strike #9. The system tells you, if you just get closer, if you just share more of your feelings, if you become better friends, then the desire will flow naturally.
But the data, and frankly just the lived experience of millions of people, often says the exact opposite. Too much intimacy, too much familiarity often suffocates desire because it completely removes the otherness that fuels it.
So you follow the rules, you become best friends, and the spark fades precisely because you became too close. But then what happens?
The system shames you for losing the spark. It tells you you're doing something wrong.
And that shame is the primary fuel source for the labor camp, which brings us directly to node 8 and node 14, the work ethic.
Relationships take work. I mean, it is the central mantra of our time. It's considered profound wisdom.
And the source attacks this idea more aggressively than almost any other. It argues that this concept, framing intimacy as labor, as something you have to work at and schedule and optimize, is a form of what it calls positive psychology farming.
Farming, as in harvesting.
Exactly. It takes all the spontaneity, all the magic out of it, doesn't it? The very idea of scheduled intimacy.
Or date night, the mandatory fun.
It's just performative project management. You're literally managing your partner like an underperforming asset.
Okay.
We have a clear disconnect in Sector 7, which is the bedroom. Let's schedule a remediation session for Friday night, which we'll call date night, and we'll implement a new protocol, which might be lingerie.
When you put it that way, it sounds so incredibly clinical and unsexy, but people swear by it. They say, we started doing date nights and it completely saved our marriage.
But here's the question. Did it save the desire, the real, spontaneous erotic charge? Or did it just provide a temporary microdopamine hook that's node 14?
Ah, the little pellets of reward.
Right. The source argues that things like gratitude journals and small planned gestures and scheduled dates, they aren't about rebuilding desire. They're just little pellets of dopamine to keep you on the wheel.
You get a little good job sticker from the system.
You feel a temporary relief from the guilt and anxiety.
But you haven't solved the core structural problem. You are still trying to get mystery from a village substitute you know better than you know yourself.
It's like putting a colorful Band-Aid on a compound fracture. The dopamine hit from the date night makes you feel like you're winning at relationships for a moment.
But the underlying impossible diet is still there, waiting for you on Monday morning when the laundry piles up. And it is exhausting. It turns your home, which should be a sanctuary, a place of rest,
into a second job with no pay and a much more demanding boss, You work all day for your actual boss, then you come home and you have to start your second shift working on your marriage.
And there's a specific node here that I think is absolutely crucial to mention. Node 3, gendered desire erosion.
Ah,
The
yes.
guide suggests that this work doesn't just fall equally, and the loss of desire, it tends to hit women harder and faster within this specific matrix.
This is controversial, obviously, but the source makes a strong structural case for it. It argues that in long-term traditional monogamy, women often lose desire faster than men, not because they're inherently less sexual.
But because the plot ends for them.
What do you mean, the plot?
The narrative tension, the seduction,
Yeah.
the chase. Once the partner is secured and the domestic unit is established, the woman often shifts, by social design, into the manager-caretaker role. She's managing the emotional village.
She becomes the CEO of the household, the project manager of life.
And it is very, very difficult to feel a sense of erotic surrender when you are the CEO. You're the one holding the clipboard. You're the one making sure everything runs on time.
And then the system gaslights her.
Totally. It tells her, you have a low libido. What's wrong with you? You need to fix yourself.
Exactly. Instead of the system saying, hey, this entire structure forces you into a de-eroticized maternal role, it says, here's a pill, or here's a therapist to find out why you're broken. It makes her internalize a massive structural failure.
So, Brill, let's recap where we are. We're working like dogs. We're feeling guilty all the time. We're losing desire, and we're blaming ourselves for it.
The logical next step would be to look around and say, you know what? This is insane. I'm choosing something else. I'm leaving.
But that's where the next layer of the crap comes in. That brings us to section 3, the bafflement.
Ah, the paralysis of choice. This is node 13, the consumer mindset.
This is the modern dating app reality, isn't it? It's drilled into us from the moment we start looking for a partner.
We treat partners like commodities on Amazon. We've all become maximizers. Are you familiar with the difference between a satisficer and a maximizer?
A satisficer finds something that's good enough, that works, and they commit. A maximizer is tormented by the need to find the absolute, mathematically perfect, best possible option.
And the swipe left, swipe right interface of a dating app turns every single one of us into a neurotic maximizer. So you're sitting across from your perfectly good partner, but maybe they're chewing their food a little loudly or they forgot to take out the trash again.
And that little voice pops into your head.
That little demon and whispers, I bet there's someone out there just a few swipes away who doesn't chew loudly and absolutely loves taking out the trash.
The phantom other. The idealized partner who exists only in the digital ether.
The source material has a great name for this. It's Deception Strike #8. Spectacle Society Envy. We are constantly, relentlessly bombarded with the curated images of other people's perfect relationships on social media.
So we end up comparing our messy, boring, behind-the-scenes footage with everyone else's professionally produced highlight reel.
And this creates a state the guide calls the bafflement. It is a state of total paralysis. You can't fully commit to the person you are with because you are terrified of settling, of missing out on that slightly better model.
But you can't leave either, because what if you're wrong? What if you can't find anyone better, so you hover?
You hover in the doorway of your own life. You never fully enter the room. And because you never fully commit and enter, you never build the deep security that could make you feel safe.
Or the deep mystery that could make things exciting. You just get the worst of both worlds. You just have anxiety.
It's a perfect trap.
Right.
It reminds me of some Zen philosophy, the idea that all suffering comes from the mind that chooses.
Right. And the heretical lens here contrasts our system with something like chaos magic or Zen. In those systems, the goal is to accept what is, to dive fully and completely into the present moment without judgment.
But in the matrix of modern love, you are always living in the hypothetical future. What if I had swiped left? What if I swipe right tomorrow? It actively prevents what the source calls decisive sovereignty.
Decisive sovereignty, I love that phrase. The ability to just stand your ground and say, this is my choice, I am planting my flag here, and I am closing the door to other options.
But the system hates a closed door. A closed door is a lost customer. It wants you to keep shopping forever.
Okay, so this is pretty bleak. The math is impossible, the work is a trap, the paradox of choice is paralyzing. But people do try to escape. They're not stupid. They try to hack the system.
They do.
They open up their marriages, they get divorced, and they vow to start over fresh.
And this is where the source material gets truly, truly ruthless. This is section 4, the reincarnation lures.
I have a feeling you're about to make the polyamorous community very upset.
Look, I'm just reading the security audit. Let's talk
Sure.
about Node 4 and Node 11. These are the so-called escape hatches.
The argument being that things like consensual non-monogamy or polyamory or open relationships, that these are not actually exits from the matrix.
The source argues they are evolutionary adaptations of the cage. It's like the cage just got bigger and maybe has a few more windows.
How so?
Think about it. What is the fundamental complaint inside long-term monogamy? I feel suffocated. I miss the thrill of the new. I want variety. I want that spark back.
Okay, so you open the relationship, you get a hall pass, you find a second partner, a girlfriend, whatever.
Right. But do you stop the work?
No, of course not. If anything, you've just doubled or tripled the work.
You've multiplied the work exponentially. Now you have 2 villages to manage. You have complex Google calendars to coordinate schedules. You have endless processing talks with multiple people to manage jealousy and expectations. You have, in effect, bureaucratized your affair.
Bureaucratized adultery, that's a very harsh way to put it.
But look at the structure. It's just more emotional administration. The guide calls it negotiated transparency. And what does it do? It allows you to vent the pressure, the sexual frustration, the boredom, without ever actually dismantling the underlying attachment to the primary structure.
It's a pressure release valve.
It's a pressure valve that keeps the main boiler from exploding. So the system actually likes a little bit of ethical non-monogamy.
Because if you didn't have that valve, you might actually blow up the whole nuclear family unit. You might actually leave.
By giving you a hall pass, the system keeps you in the house.
Yeah.
You're just a free-range prisoner now, instead of a caged one.
Wow. Okay. So what if you do blow up the house? What if you get divorced? That has to be a real exit, right? You're out.
Are you? Let's look at Node 6, the good divorce.
Ah, we are consciously uncoupling.
Precisely. The modern narrative where we frame divorce not as a failure of the system, but as a successful completion of a contract. We say things like, we had a great 15-year run, and now we're just transitioning into a new phase of our friendship.
Which does sound healthy. I mean, it's better than a bitter screaming match, isn't it?
Emotionally healthier for the individuals involved, absolutely.
Yeah.
But structurally, for the Matrix, it is reincarnation bait. This is Deception Strike #11. By framing the end of a relationship as a growth opportunity, the system is simply prepping you, grooming you for the next one.
It's just funneling you right back into the dating market.
Immediately. It pats you on the back and says, wow, you learned so much from that failed marriage. Now, take all those valuable learnings and apply them to your next partner. It actively prevents radical detachment.
You never stop and ask the really dangerous question.
Wait a second. Is the game itself rigged? No. You just think, I need to play the game better next time with a better teammate.
It's like corporate agile methodology applied directly to the human soul.
That's a perfect analogy.
Yep.
Pivot, iterate, fail fast, relaunch with relationship version 2.0.
This is Node 12, isn't it? Relational reinvention. The idea that you can marry the same person 3 different times or just keep upgrading your relationship model.
And it ensures you never, ever stop consuming the product, which is relationship. You never achieve escape velocity. You are just stuck in a karmic samsara loop of hope and disappointment over and over again.
And that is the reincarnation lure. The constant dangling hope that this time will be different. This partner will finally be the village. This dynamic will finally balance security and mystery.
And that hope is the bars of the cage.
So this is the big question then. Where is the exit? If we can't work our way out and we can't sleep our way out with new partners and we can't divorce our way out, what is left?
This brings us to the final section of the audit, the escape velocity.
This has to be more than just another set of rules.
It's not rules. It's a fundamental shift in consciousness. First, you have to look at the priority target queue. The source separates the threats into high and medium. The high threat nodes are the axioms, the core beliefs.
So you have to attack the foundational code first.
You have to. You have to look at node 9, the partner is village, and you have to say out loud to yourself and to your partner, I refuse to demand that you be my entire village.
What does that actually look like, though, in practical day-to-day life?
It means aggressively outsourcing your needs. It means deliberately and consciously rebuilding your own village. You get a therapist for your trauma, not your spouse. You get a financial advisor for your money. You get a gym buddy for your fitness. You cultivate deep, meaningful, non-romantic friendships for your emotional venting.
You strip the job description of spouse down to the studs.
You make them human again. You stop asking them to be a god. That is step 1. You neutralize the demiurgic overload.
And step 2, what's the medium threat?
The medium threat nodes are all the ones about labor and effort.
Mm-hmm.
And the strategy here is simple, but it's not easy. It's to withdraw consent.
You withdraw consent from the work? You stop trying to fix it?
You stop performing. You stop the positive psychology farming. You look at your partner and you say, I am not going to manage you. I am not going to be the project manager of our intimacy. We are two sovereign, whole adults. If desire is here between us, wonderful. If it's not, we're not going to try and manufacture it with a gratitude journal and a scheduled date night.
That sounds absolutely terrifying for most people. What if the whole thing just collapses?
Then it collapses. That is what the source calls the burn cycle. If the relationship only exists because you are propping it up with constant artificial labor, then it isn't real. It should collapse. You have to be willing to let it die to see if there's anything real and true underneath all the machinery.
And that is the heretical contrast. We are so terrified of the silence, of the space between people, that we just fill it with all this noise and effort and work.
The escape is to just stop. The ultimate deception of the entire matrix is the belief that there is a solution to be found inside the matrix. That if you just read one more book or try one more therapeutic technique or find one more partner, you'll finally be fulfilled.
When the only real escape is realizing that fulfillment was never going to come from the other in the first place.
It comes from sovereignty.
From becoming a whole person on your own, not a half looking for your better half.
It's about being immune to the frequencies of erotic manipulation and romantic obligation. Being genuinely okay with being alone, being okay with being bored sometimes, being okay with not being happy all the time.
It's about breaking the core story. The story says, you are incomplete until you are found and chosen by another.
And the deconstruction says you are already whole. You have just been distracted and exhausted by the impossible task of trying to complete someone else while they try to complete you.
And once you truly, deeply understand that,
The cage door just swings open. You might stay in the relationship. You might leave.
Yeah.
It doesn't even matter because you are no longer a prisoner.
you're a volunteer.
And that is a completely different way to love. In fact, it might be the only way. Everything else is just a very polite hostage negotiation.
Exhales. Wow. That is a lot to process. It really does flip the script on everything we see on a Valentine's Day card.
Tear up the cards. Look at the code.
And that's our deep dive for this week.
Remember, the most dangerous illusion is the one you don't know you're in.
But now you know. So here's our question for you. Knowing now that the entire modern relational matrix, the impossible demand for one partner to be your village, the consumer choice dating paradigm, the promise that effort or the next form of monogamy will deliver fulfillment functions as a sophisticated containment system. What is the one sacred story about love, partnership, or desire that you've been clinging to that you're finally ready to put on the chopping block?
Let us know in the comments. Question the narrative. Deconstruct the dogma. See the system.
We'll see you next time. Stay skeptical.
Thank you for joining us.